Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about Prom Night, the 1980s slasher movie. So I just now finally watched this movie for the first time in my life. The movie was directed by Paul Lynch and written by William Gray. And of course, it stars that of Jamie Lee Curtis and also the late and great Leslie Nielsen. And may he rest in peace. And so, it took me forever just to watch this movie because many years ago, I watched the remake on YouTube. Then I decided to watch, the remake again a couple of nights ago, and I still thought to myself, oh wait, I still haven't watched the original yet, because I remember years ago I had completely forgot about just prom night in general, right? And I wasn't thinking about it in any kind of way. And then I remember I saw it on a streaming app, a free one, and so I added it, but I forgot to watch it, and it hasn't been on there in a long time. So for the last few years and everything, I've been looking for it on whatever apps I have, but it hasn't been on there until it was on Tubi. So I'm all like, okay, I'm finally gonna watch it, right? And so I rewatched the remake first, the rebooted one, just to see how different or similar that they are. And it's crazy. Like when they made that reboot, I don't understand why it felt more like a crime drama than that of this mysterious kind of slashery type thing. It's almost like they didn't watch the full original and just took snippets from it and then just added that movie to that. Because really and honestly, the reboot is really just the third act with a little bit of new stuff added to it. They kept the whole thing of them wanting to be prom queen. There's a bully female, but in the reboot, she's barely in the movie and she's not a main character whatsoever. They kept the innocent girl, but this time it's the innocent girl being targeted in the reboot and everything. There's the cop looking for an escaped convict and everything, and so of course there's a killer going on a killing spree, but the intentions of the killer is completely different from the intentions of the original movie. So I will say the reboot, yes, is for the most part an original movie that just happens to share the same name, but it's not as interesting as the original. Now, when it comes to the original, I think it did a way better job with suspense and intrigue, because you're wondering who the heck is this person on the phone. It has to do with what happened in the past, but you don't know who that person is. And so that what really makes you wonder and everything, And so when this movie first came out, it's crazy because the first instance of prom night I ever heard of was in Scream when Randy was talking about it. And now a lot of stuff Randy says makes sense. About Jamie Lee Curtis and how she never gives it up or what she will reveal on screen. The whole everybody's a suspect type thing. Because watching this movie, I literally had no idea who the heck the killer was. I suspected the dad. And that's the one cool thing about this movie. It doesn't give you too much information. You kind of just gotta go with it. As you're watching, it's gonna be a revenge movie. The teens, okay, by the way, when they said 6 years later and I saw these supposed teens, I'm like, did they forget to add a couple of 10 years to it or something? Because these look like grown adults in their 20s playing teenager, which of course what it is. I'm all like, they don't look like they're about 16, 17 years old and everything. They look like full grown adults, which of course was the thing back then to do. And also in the 90s and the 2000s and stuff. But my God, they just look like adults. Never once did I ever think, okay, you're a teenager. And so, like, they do the whole like you don't suspect who it is because you know it revolves around these teenagers and what they did, which they just went about their life all nonchalant and everything, not even thinking about the past, except for Nick. And so, like, you assume, okay, maybe it's the father. You know what I'm saying? He looks so distraught. And it's a possibility it could be the mom, but probably not really. Maybe it's the friend, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe it's that serial killer that they're looking for. And you know it's not gonna be Jamie Lee Curtis character because she's all throughout the movie. But then you stop and don't really think about like the brother either because like you just don't think about it because well you think it could be a possibility, but you don't really think it's a possibility because you sometimes you assume you see him all throughout the movie, right? Because the one thing that kept throwing me off is that Alex and Nick had the same exact hairstyle and the same exact hair color, which kept throwing me off because I kept getting them confused. And they even kind of look similar in the face and everything. So I kept thinking, I kept seeing him in the movie until he started acting all romantic to that of Jamie Lee Curtis character. I'm like, oh, okay, that's the love interest and not the brother. But then you don't even stop to realize that, hey, I don't even see the brother nowhere in this movie. And so, so I do like how they do that of make you like, avert your expectations and also make you wonder like who the heck it could be. That whole everybody's a suspect thing. Like I love that. Now, the movie did garner like negative reviews, like I said back in the day and everything. Some people didn't like the violence towards women because most of the antagonists that somehow turned into somewhat protagonists, they're all female except for one guy. And the guy doesn't get it as much as like, the females. But when you stop and you think about it, think of Slick, right? Slick, Lou, they got it pretty good. So it's not just violence towards women and everything. But the main suspects were the females that the killer was targeting. So in a way, it kind of is violence against women and stuff. I just saw it more as like a revenge thing, and they just happened to be the ones getting the revenge. But of course, this goes on the writer. Also, since this was made in the 70s but came out in the 80s, the hairstyles and the clothes kind of threw me off. I'm like, this looks very 70s. But I'm like, oh, okay, that's right. It's filmed in the 70s. And it was probably written in the 70s. And so, like, it has that 80s movies, like, unnecessary nudity and stuff like that. Like there are just scenes where it just like seriously, man. These were some horny, stinking men back in the day when making movies and stuff. It's like if you have to have nudity for a special scene, like say a sex scene, fine, that's okay. But it's like there were just some shots that were just way too unnecessary just to get people horny and everything, and it worked. And then it makes you wonder what happened behind the scenes and how they treated these women who had to be nude because you know how men are and you know how men are in Hollywood. And you know how all these scandals, like decades later, come out. But so far, nothing has come out here because most people back in those days just kept their mouth shut. But I bet you anything, there are tons of stories of like catcalling, maybe some groping or something like that. And who knows what else. And it was always the nudity of the women and never the men. Because like there are scenes where it's like, the one blonde girl whose name I forget, she's the only one the killer never came after. Like, yeah, she got targeted with the phone call, but the killer never once came after her. Didn't have enough time. And so like she just got away with it clean. And there's a scene where she sees like, the gardener dude, the janitor. And so she decides to flash her butt cheeks to him and everything. And it's just kind of like, why? Then there's a scene where Jamie Lee Curtis is playing tennis. And you can literally see the skirt go up a little too far and the camera going up the skirt and you see her underwear. Then there, of course, is the locker room scene where the women are like in their bras and showing like their butts and walking around, and then they leave the gym with just a shirt on and their boobs are like all exposed. And it's like, who the heck will walk around like a campus with their boobs exposed and they're wearing underwear and stuff? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like unnecessary like that. Then there is the waitress at the fast food place with the short shorts on, and or Daisy Duke shorts, whatever you call them back then. And it just kept focusing like on her butt. Then of course, like the nudity in like the sex scene, it's like, okay, whatever, that's fine. But that's teen sex, you gotta remember, even though it's adults playing it. And so the boobs you are seeing are technically supposed to be that of a teen. And it's like, how horny were these men back then, I don't. It's one of the reasons why modern day films and television are the way they are, and the reason why we're stuck with naked man booty all the time. I'm so sick of that crap, and it's because of movies like this. Now, one problem I have with this movie is like, okay, it's really good in the beginning with the kids playing like the killer scene in the abandoned building like that. Like just the opening scene was way creepier than like the reboot, right? So you got these kids, they're running around in an abandoned building talking about kill, kill. And then the one girl is like, Robin is like scared because she wanted to play with them and stuff. That scene was really terrifying because it reminded me of something of like Children of the Corn and everything. And so it's just like stuff, little stuff like that is way more mysterious and intriguing and spooky than like the reboot, right? And so they're like taunting her and she falls out the window by mistake. They want to tell, but the one girl won't let them, so they decide to keep it a secret. Reminds me of things like I Know What You Did Last Summer. So anyway, she dies and her twin and sister, and the mom, and later on they discover like the body and everything, and the girl is dead. Which one time I thought, is she really dead? Could that really be her underneath that mask? I mean, it's a slim body and everything, but I don't see no boobs and everything. And so like I'm like, no, she has to be dead, right? Like, how the heck could she come back from the dead unless this is like a horror, like a horror movie where a dead body comes back for revenge, which is kind of like the second and the third, like, prom night movie, which I've never seen, but I read on and everything. I can't believe there's 5 movies total. And so, like, but then after that, you get the phone call, and the phone call is very disturbing too, with how they like scratch out or erase the names and the fake voice that they have. It's just, see, this is what I was saying about that DI remake, right? In the Japanese version, they give you time to go slow and linger on stuff. But in the American remake, everything was like fast paced and you couldn't absorb it in. Here in these old, like I said, like back in the day, these old slasher movies, they used to let you absorb like what you're seeing and everything to get you creeped out and build up your suspense and your fear and everything like that. And just like with the phone call, it does a really good job with that. But then after all that, it's just a teen movie. And that's literally it. teen angst and nothing really to go on other than like these people want to be prom queen. They're like these horny guys, and there's your stereotypical bully in Lou, who literally is like one of the worst people in the movie, and you can't wait for him to get his comeuppings and everything. For him forcing himself on Jamie Lee Curtis character, kissing her, to like fighting her brother and everything, and just like all kind of other stuff, right? He's your stereotypical jock of a jerk type guy. And so all through that part of the movie, while it's interesting because at least it's filmed nice and it's acted nice and it's written nice, it has nothing to do with the killer and the revenge plot, right? And it's just like literally a teen movie. So I can see why people could get irritated with that, because that started to irritate me as well. And then in the third act, at prom, this is where all the killing stuff starts to happen. And so it sucks you have to wait to the third act just for all the actual slashery type stuff to happen. And that's one thing the reboot does better, is that in the reboot you see people dying left and right all throughout the movie. But the kills are not that spectacular in the reboot. And I'm a 90s slasher guy, so I'm used to seeing kills happening all throughout the movie. It's kind of like the three meals that you eat. You need a little slasher to get in the morning for breakfast. You need a little kill for lunch. You need a little kill for dinner. And then for those late night snacks, you get a little kill in before you go like to sleep. And so that's how I like my slasher movies, where you see people constantly getting taunted all throughout the movie. And even if people don't get killed all throughout the movie, at least stalk them throughout the movie. Like I know what you did last summer. But here, it's just like the killer completely disappears and everything. And I don't understand why the cops assumed, oh no, I know why. Because they assumed that the killer killed little Robin and everything. And that he might go after these kids that might have witnessed it. Okay, now I understand. And stuff, because I was just kind of like, why the heck are the cops over there at the prom? And then when they catch the actual serial killer, they're all like, all right, now I can enjoy the prom, the cop said. I'm like, why? You should leave now. And it's weird how Jamie Lee Curtis character Kim is the final girl considered in this movie, when she's not really a person who was targeted by like the killer, you know what I'm saying? So people shouldn't really even call her the final girl. If anything, Nick and the blonde girl should be like, the final people and stuff. But people don't think about that like that. They just think of Jamie Lee Curtis, which is just like odd. But Jamie Lee Curtis is Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, originally before she landed the role, somebody from the Brady Bunch was actually supposed to play her character, Kim. And so like, whatchamacallem. But later on, she got the like role and everything like that. She does a really good job. Like, she's a really good actress. And my God, she's a phenomenal dancer. Like this now I understand what people say when they say there are these elaborate dances in like movies back in the day, because this dance scene went on forever and ever and ever. But it was so good. But then, when the killer actually puts on the costume, the ski mask, and goes after, like, the victims and everything, it's funny how this movie makes you feel bad for the victims when they did a terrible thing back in the day. Granted, they did not push her out the window, but they scared her enough to where she fell out of it, and they didn't tell nobody. And, they were so mean to that little girl, but they were just little kids playing. But it's funny how it makes you forgive them. Like, even the girl who wants to be prom queen, the rich girl, who does, like, all this terrible stuff in, like, the movie, you kind of feel bad for her when she's getting chased around with an axe. But then you remember, oh wait, she's one of the most terrible ones of all and everything. Like, she's literally terrible, but she's just a mean girl. She doesn't actually harm people, but she does do things like get Lou to scare the crap out of Kim and everything. But like she said, she doesn't want Kim to get hurt or Nick. And so she's just a mean, bad girl who's stuck up and everything. But you do feel bad for her when she's getting chased around by a killer with an axe. And so, it's that whole cliche thing of, okay, once you do it, the killer comes after you in like a slasher movie. Now I get this reference and stuff because I've been wondering because I never used to watch none of this 80s stuff until just recently. And so, the one girl got it in like the locker room or whatever, or gym or wherever they was at. Then the whole Slick thing. He has to be the coolest character in the entire movie. He's this overweight, nerdy guy with a giant van, and somehow he's able to get an attractive woman. Or a girl, I should say. And so, who was with Slick? Because I don't know none of these people's name. Was it Wendy? No, Wendy was the mean girl. Um, who he chases and stuff. Jude, that's it. Jude and Slick. Man, I felt bad for Slick. Slick literally had nothing to do with this, right? And so Jude, she's so nice that you don't even think, oh yeah, she's the girl who helped cause another little girl to die and everything. And so after Jude gets hers, there are some hilarious scenes in this freaking movie. Okay, first the fight between Alex and Lou. Those were some wild punches being thrown. And it's just kind of like, back in those days, they didn't care about good choreography and everything, but those were some wild punches. But then it's like Slick and the Killer. The car chase scene had me laughing. Because it was so ridiculous. Like, here he is driving, trying to punch the killer, knocking the killer out, killer falling out the car, jumping back in the car, riding alongside the door and everything. I'm all like, what the heck is this, a Dukes of Hazzard? But then he completely crashes the car off a cliff and it blows up in the most Hollywood action kind of way. Oh man, I swear to God. Now, Wendy being chased was really good. That really had your heart pumping and everything, wondering when she's gonna get it. Is she gonna escape? Is the killer gonna get her? You know what I'm saying? But then, of course, Lou got his comeuppance by, the killer thinking it's Nick and everything, and his head just came clean off. But then it's the whole Nick and Kim thing. Like the whole scene with Kim, Nick, and the killer was just the most hilarious thing ever. Because one, the killer runs in a very goofy kind of way holding the axe. And it's the disco music in the background, because it's playing because they're at prom, and you're expecting it to be like horror type movie, but music, but it's not. It's just like this hokey disco music and everything, and all these lights, and it's just kind of weird, it's almost comedic in a way, by the way they're running and struggling and fighting and everything. And then of course, Kim gets the kill on the killer, but then she starts to realize something when she looks into the killer's eyes. And then when he stumbles outside and she tries to stop the cop from shooting him, okay, we're okay, it has to be either the father or maybe the mother, or maybe Robin is really alive. But for whatever reason, my mind didn't think the brother. And especially when they slowly took off the mask and you saw lipstick. It's okay, so it's a female and everything. But no, it's Alex and everything. He is the killer, because then it's later revealed, he actually saw his sister fall out the window and saw the kids responsible. So he's known this entire time, and for whatever reason, kept his mouth shut. And I don't understand. And that's one part that's just odd. Like, why did he keep his mouth shut? Because the kids never threatened him. And I think he even dated Wendy at one point. And not only that, but it was just so weird that all these kids befriended Kim and like Alex after what they did to the sister. And it's like, how the heck could they go about their normal day after what they did in their lives and stuff? And not to mention, why the heck did it take like, Alex so long to get revenge? And so this completely blew my mind when it was like the brother, because as the slow reveal started to happen, you started to think it's a female. Now, this is one of those things that is heavily criticized as years have went on, because it's kind of like, what exactly is Alex? We see he wanted revenge and he's upset for the murder of his sister, which I'm gonna assume they're twins because they dress the same. And so, like, you can clearly see he's wearing makeup on his face, which kind of threw me off. Like, why is he wearing makeup on his face? And then it's like, oh, okay, he's a cross dresser and everything. Back in the day, that's what they used to call it. Now, we don't know what exactly to call it because he's kind of like, okay, is he a drag queen? Does he just put on girls' clothes? Is he non binary? Is he transgender? Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Because of all the new sexualities that have come arise since like the 80s and stuff. And so it's one of those things where people's all like, why did he have to be, because people are assuming he's part of the LGBT community, and so people are upset talking about like, why do these movies sometimes do that, where they'll have somebody in the LGBT community shine in a bad light, and this makes people who cross-dress look bad, you know what I'm saying, thinking that they're homicidal killers and everything. And so it's never explained why he dresses the way he does with the makeup and stuff. But you have to kind of like think outside the box and just assume that he loved his sister so much and that he's obsessed with her. And that's why he did what he did. And maybe he wants to be her. Or maybe he just wants to be a female, or like, we don't know, you know what I'm saying? Because it was never explained back then. Because people really didn't, people had a very limited view and a negative view of people like that back in the day. So they probably just didn't care, and they probably just did it just to show like, see, these people are like freaks and they kill people, see? And so like, you really don't know. So I understand why it got its mixed reviews. I would never say give it negative reviews like it did, but I do understand throughout the middle of the movie, you're just like kind of wondering, why is this a slasher? Then when you get to the third act, you're kind of like, okay, well, why is it a slasher? You know what I'm saying? Like, you ask those questions and everything. But I do feel like writing wise and acting and directing and the plot and all that, it was a whole lot better than like the reboot and everything. And I still can't believe how vastly different both the original and the reboot is, because some people said it was unoriginal and just like the original movie, but it's not. Like the killers have like two completely different motivations and stuff. And I don't understand why Jamie Lee Curtis was giving the final girl treatment when this has nothing to do with her, like at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand why so much of the focus of the movie was on her character. I don't understand why she got the final blow in to like, the killer. And I get why she survived it because she was never a target, but that's the thing. She was never a target. I just don't get it. And sometimes I think the only reason why it was written that way is because she was in the Halloween movie, which of course started this whole copycat of like slasher movies in the 80s. So they're all like, oh, we have Jamie Lee Curtis and everything, and she was in Halloween. So we have to make her the final girl and everything. And I do wonder if the original people who auditioned for it, was this character ever supposed to be like, the final girl? Oh, okay, never mind. The blonde girl, Vicky, she was never part of the group when she was younger. She's the blonde who shows like her butt cheeks to the janitor dude. I thought she was also one of those little kids, from like the group that like, caused Robin's death. So I guess the only person to survive was just Nick and everything. Now wasn't that spooky? Alright, well I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.